Welcome to another episode of The Billy Ho Show. Now, when I was a boy, the money was pounds, shillings and pence. And there were 12 pence to the shilling and 20 shillings to the pound. Average wage back in the day was between £3 and £7, and a pound was an absolute fortune. I mean, for a penny you could get 4 Jaffas, and for a halfpenny you could get 2 Jaffas. This is when you went to the pictures. And a pound would just buy you, it was just, you couldn't even think about what a pound could buy. And so I found a pound the other day, and it's behind me, and it's just great to see one again. All the fancy elaboration of what they put on the pound. And there's a picture of Captain Cook, who was the man who sort of circumnavigated the place and did some maps and things like that. But it was just interesting. A pound was an absolute fortune. Before we start, I'd just like to tell you about an event at Higgins Park. Higgins Park is near Wakefield, which is south of Nelson. So if you're in that area on the 2nd and 3rd of October, that's a great event to attend. They're going to open up all their sheds, so everything they have there will be on display, things for the family to do. So it's going to be a wonderful weekend, and it starts from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. We're going to be there filming, so we look forward to seeing you there. Well, welcome to another episode of The Billy Ho Show. And I'm in the Wairarapa, and behind me there's an aeroplane on a stick, and it says it's a Harvard Mark II. And Paul Gleeson, who owns all this property that we're going to be talking about, is organised to put that aeroplane up on the top of that pole just so he could. And if you go to Paeatua, which is just down the road, there's another one as you go into the town there. I think it's part of a kid's playground, and you can actually climb up into it. But I just thought we'd start off with Paul Gleeson sticking that aeroplane up on a pole. Amazing. Moss, tell me about these motorbikes.
We've got a Match, which is the first one there, a single, 350. Then we go to a BSA, a Gold Flash. Second one there. A Velocette is just immediately in front of us here. And the Matchlets here, the MC is 650. She's probably the pride of joy. In the back here we have a Jawa dirt tracker. We've got a bit of shipping, T-Toki, and it's actually a coastal
Freighter
it was. So,
right, yeah.
Yeah.
I had a Jawa, although it was an NZ scooter, but the Jawa people brought them in, and they also brought in the motorbikes. But
they were good.
Yeah, no, there was nothing wrong with it. It went like a rocket.
Well, that was a Jawa, a single. That was, but up until then they were all running JAPs, JA Prestwich motors, single cylinder on the dirt. And that was the sort of the start of the Jawa, that one.
So this is on the Speedway. This is the Speedway job.
Speedways.
Paul, in 2012, this became 100 years old.
Correct.
And I just remember it at Takapau, and there was a big parade there, and they made a bit of a fuss over it. And I think the Leyland that Bill Niman has, I think that's pretty much around about the same age. But this is your pride and joy. This is where you started with trucks, or?
Well, not where I started, no, but it's one I collected on the way.
Yeah.
It belonged to chap Wills out at Weber, and he donated it to the Southwood Museum, and then Len Southwood, or Sir Len as he was then, put it up for sale for tender, and I was lucky enough, when I saw the third tender, I got very interested and I purchased it off him.
Oh, okay.
And I asked him why did you want to keep it, and he said Southwood's Car Museum.
Yeah,
so
not a truck
didn't
museum.
want trucks. So.
Right, fair enough.
So I'm very lucky to get it. It's got a sleeve valve motor with a 4-speed gearbox, cone clutch, big heavy diff, and as a Maori fellow pointed out to me once, it's got tubeless tyres, because they're solid tyres, solid rubber. The chassis is wood flinched with 2 bits of steel. But the unique thing about it was a lot of stuff I had to make, but all the brass plates, every part, every component has got a brass tag on it, telling you the part number, and luckily every one of those is there, which makes it a good collectible item.
So is Daimler still in business, or are they gone?
Oh yes, no, they were still
they?
going. Oh, not now, no. But like obviously when they made this, they were. Yes.
Yeah. Because I used to drive a Daimler bus for the ARA in Auckland in the 1960s, and it had a sort of a put it into gear, and then when you're ready, you hit the clutch, pre-selector, I think it was called.
Yeah, that was called a Wilson pre-selector.
Oh, okay. So Daimler was responsible for that gearbox?
No, Wilsons were the company that did it, and they were
Oh,
fitted
okay.
to lots of vehicles.
Right.
Was
So
it the AI or IRA you would
ARA,
probably
Auckland.
IRA, was it?
Yeah, it used to be the ATB, Auckland Transport Board, and then it was the ARA, which is
Auckland Regional.
Auckland Regional Authority. Yeah, I don't know how they got to do the buses, but they did. So did you have the cab done, or was it already like this when you got it?
The only part I had to do it, the only parts that were there was the front part, which was carry, and all the rest was just basically in a heap. So I was able to copy it and do it pretty well exactly, and the people who made it originally were Crawley and Wrigley, which is their signs just down there somewhere.
Sure.
Crawley and Wrigley, coach builders in Wellington, they originally made the cab and the tray.
Right.
And the crate.
Yeah. Wow. And so does it go? I mean, do you drive
heck
it?
yeah.
I seem to remember it was in the parade, in one of the Christmas parades a couple of years ago. And I think you might have been sort of sitting in the driver's seat, but whether you were driving it or not, I'm not sure.
I wasn't, my brother-in-law was. No, I wasn't. I got quite a lot of flack about that, as did when Moss and I took the, on the back, you can see it on the back, the motorbike with a sidecar, and I drove into town, and Moss, we had this coding, he could tap on my leg as to go left or to right, but I got a lot of flack. But when we got to this end of town on the way home, Moss had it more than enough. He said, "Get off, I'm driving it home." His nerves were had it.
Fair enough. Yeah, I got to tell you, folks, that Paul's vision isn't that wonderful. And when I first met him, he was restoring a Mac, I think it was, in here. But how the hell he does it with sort of 35% visibility? He must sort of get right down close to it to weld it or do a nut up, or it must be very, very difficult for you.
I haven't got 35, I can assure you that.
Really?
I can hardly see you.
Oh, really? So anyway, next door here, Paul's a CA Bedford. Is it a CA or the next model up?
It's a CA Bedford van, yes, and it's in very, very good order for a CA Bedford van. I've taken the sliding door off it because I got sick of people saying this is what happens when you put your foot on the brake and you haven't got it clipped back, so, and then slamming.
Yeah,
so I took the door off. But the plan is with it is that I'm going to A-frame it and put it on that truck that Linda's going to take a photo of in a minute.
Oh, yeah.
My camper van truck.
Sure.
And so I can get people to take me to where I want to go and then leave me, and they can come back in the van, or when my family uses the camper van, they can use it for their family, because both my two girls have each got 3 children, so
Yeah.
I'm making the camper van to hold 5, so boys or girls can sleep in that, and they can put lots of luggage and stores and things in it.
I just remember when I used to drive an Austin J2 van around delivering coffee and stuff around Auckland, but these were equally as popular as the delivery vans around Auckland. Everybody and his dog had one. Yeah.
Well, they're ideal because you can slip it out and quick, and you didn't have a door that swung out. This has always amazed me with the modern trucks, why they haven't gone to a sliding door, because the people who own the trucks are always paying for doors that get caught in the wind.
Yeah, that's right.
Sliding door.
And then the Austin had the little doors that sort of sat around the back alley trucks, I think they were called, so they could get in and out in those little narrow alleys in London. Yeah. Amazing. I just see this as something I can't really go past looking at. Is that an Eaton diff switch?
It is. 2-speed diff, yeah.
Yeah. Electric or vacuum?
Electric.
Yeah. There you go, folks. You don't see those every day. Go on, your Paul. We're going to have a look at something else.
Thank you.
Before the war, Bill, International Harvester owned the Farm All brand, and they've taken a Farm All, basically a Farm All, complete with a roller on the front, big steel wheels to do the rolling at the back, and a grader blade, so the local borough council could do whatever they wish. They could grade the road, they could roll it, and it's all based on an old Farm All. I think it's around about an F12 or something like that as a base.
Sure.
But yeah, and this is what happened in New Zealand. I mean, a lot of stuff came out here basically as a tractor, but of course it didn't take long before the locals added the bits to them and did whatever they could, because you couldn't get gear in the country anyway.
No.
So.
I see the 3 wheels on there. That's one
adjustment.
One to steer it and the other 2 to adjust blades.
Yeah, it'd be one steering, and then you'll be your blade, your angle of your blade and all that sort of thing. And here you notice, way out the front,
There's a crank handle.
about 40 miles from the radiator, there's your crank handle. So you wouldn't want to backfire with the old duck because you're immediately over the roller there and you'd rip your knuckles off, but I suppose you'd only ever do it once.
Yeah.
You'd never do it twice.
But it's just Kiwi ingenuity.
It is, Bill, and that's pure and simple.
Yes.
Yeah. So they had farmers, they could get the tractor. So the next thing, all right, well, we want to roll the asphalt. All right, we'll stick a roller on the front of it. No, well, we want to grade it too. Oh, we'll stick a blade under it. And it all gets done.
It all gets done. Yeah, well, we do this, we do that, we do this, we'll be able to do that.
And it worked.
Absolutely.
That's the point. It worked.
Awesome.
Bill, well, actually, you're almost sitting on the Fordson full track county crawler, they called it, and that's a Perkins engine. Over just to the back of us here is another Fordson, same era, but she's a half track, and it's just a flat head. We've got a Perkins here of the same year, and then we've got another two flatheads here. What are they, E27s or something like that, I think.
Are these 1930s or 1940s?
They would be, they were still coming out after the war, so they're 1940s before they got into diesels.
Sure.
I think they'd all have landed out in the country after the war. And of course, we all had to have British tractors because of the good old Empire, don't you forget it, the Empire preference.
So we had to put them back on the map because they were pretty broke after the war.
They were.
Yeah,
no, they were. They owed a lot of money. And the internationals started trickling in from the 50s on, but earlier than that was virtually all these dear old biddies here that were coming out. They did a lot of work.
Tell me about the half track. What was the reason for the half track, do you know?
They were no good at, English were basically in those years no good at building crawlers.
Right.
They didn't come to terms with crawlers. So of course if you didn't have a crawler, you went and took a wheel tractor and messed around with the back of it and ended up with a half track.
So this was more Kiwi ingenuity?
No, this was, they came out with that on them.
Oh, right.
Edmund Hillary did it to the Ferguson and drove it to the South Pole. He took the idea and put it and drove it down there. And then County, which was a spin-off from Ford's over there of some description, and they went and built these full crawlers that came out. But they had difficulty matching the American stuff that was coming in at that time.
We saw these exact tractors in a shed yesterday, so
there
was a crawler and three, just wheeled tractors. But it's just interesting that yesterday we looked at the exact same tractors. Amazing.
Yeah, but
and are they radiator?
Oh, those are radiator. They're cast iron.
No, I mean the little thing behind it.
Oh, that's the thermometer.
Yes. So
tell you that it's boiling its guts out. That's if you can't see the steam coming out the top.
Fair enough. Good on you.
There was a guy, Charlie Bannister in Marston, and he had these things on steel, and they were crushing scrub, 20-foot high scrub, and they disappear into the scrub with these things. Yeah.
Oh, that's
they did a lot of work.
Amazing.
They ain't working now.
No. Yeah, museum piece. Good on you, Moss. Paul, Mercedes make all sorts of trucks, and this one was probably in the 70s. Maybe you can just tell me about it. It says 1319. What does that actually mean?
13 means 13 tonne, 190 horsepower, but you've got to add 5% to that because the 90 is a DIN rating. So it was 90. It was with the Met stable air axle on it. It was $33,000 in 1973.
Wow.
Which was quite expensive because at the same time we bought Ford D1000s for $19,500. One lasted 8 years and the other one lasted 10 years.
And this is still going?
It's still going, gets a clean certificate of fitness every year. Things like this here, to get at the motor, there's no play there.
Yeah.
If that was a pommy thing, it would have fallen off years ago. It shuts, it's beautifully made, good steel. They're a marvellous truck. Gleeson's balance sheet never read right until we got a Mercedes.
Really?
And when we got the Mercedes, we actually came right.
Because Buff Wedding said that about commerce. He
Yes.
said we never made any money till we got commerce. Yeah, but this is way
we
past
ended up with
commerce.
14 of these. And
Wow.
my brother and I are both mechanics and spent all night bloody head gaskets, clutches, you name it with the English vehicles. But once we got Mercedes,
You can shut the door on a Friday, open it on Monday, and off you go again.
well, we worked on the weekend too,
Oh,
because they would do it. But they went away in the morning, they came back at night, and they went away next, and you didn't have to rush out with spanners, and alternators and starters and things. They just kept going.
Wow.
They were a breakthrough for us.
Yeah, awesome.
I'm very proud of this truck because it's Erica's, my daughter's now, but it still runs beautifully, and like I say, it gets a clean bill of health every 6 months.
I see you've taken it on the truck runs
Yes.
from time to time.
Yeah,
you
my
might- did you-
here.
Did you have a little cabin or something
Yes,
on the
I
back
did
of
have
it?
on the back, yes.
Was it the whole truck or just the back?
No, just the back. It's just my camper
somewhere
bed.
to sleep, yeah.
Somewhere to sleep,
Yeah, yeah.
just so we could rough it.
Awesome. Yeah. So how many of these are still around? Do you any idea? Because I don't really see all that many.
The Chapin. Timaroo's got one, the big ploughing championship man, he's still got one. Well, there's a few around,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
not like they all come and go. Well, 1973, it's getting pretty old,
Yeah,
isn't
it is. That's 40 something years ago.
Yeah, more than 40. And,
47.
yep. And
48.
this one has done, 1.78 million Ks, and we can accurately record that because the speedo never broke down. And then when we've got hub meters, it's on its third hub meter, but we've got all the recordings of the hub meters.
Right.
So it's not just an estimated pluck out of the sky distance, it's genuinely done.
Yeah. So the speedo records Ks or miles.
It was converted to miles
Oh, righto.
because that's what we had to have here then.
Yeah, and then back to Ks it went.
Back to K. No, interesting enough, I put a kilometre speedo odometer head in it,
Okay.
just so we could compare that
Sure.
with the hub meter. But the hub meters, of course, you can't question them. That's just the way it is.
Yeah. Wow.
All the mileage is done on them nowadays. But however, I would say it's probably within 1,000 Ks of being genuine.
Yeah, well,
That mileage,
yes.
and it only ever had 3 main drivers. Chap Ernie Winterbourne drove it from new, then Bill Percy, and then Graham Murdoch drove it for years and
So it
years and
says
years.
Skins.
Skins is my daughter Erica,
Oh, righto. Yep.
because I lucky enough to have identical twin girls. I called them Fatty and Skinny, but of course once they got to about 3, it certainly wasn't prudent to. I had to delete one name, but I still call. Then there was no difference in their weight really, just a few pound. But I still call Erica Skins. But I'm certainly not brave enough to
Say it now.
refer to
mate.
my Lara,
Fair enough.
because she's not.
No,
A very fit woman.
absolutely.
But
Yeah.
that's why that's Skins.
Are they train horns on the top or just?
No, just horns at the
Yeah,
time.
horns,
They weren't come out with Mercedes. No, they just horns.
There's a bloke called Graham Poulter drove an old Leyland, and he got a train horn from somewhere, stuck it in, and frightened the shit out of people who was in his way. Good on you, Paul.
Was a bloke he lives in town, and he went around America and he got a train horn made for his GMC truck, and we've been there once at the Woodville railway station. We blew the steam horn or steam whistle.
Yep.
It's amazing. People come out of the woodwork because people just love steam, and they thought there must have been a steam train coming through. And as they all arrived, we were looking up around too because they had no idea it was in his vehicle that the
Steam horn.
steam whistle is.
Yeah, well, good on you, Paul.
Thank you.
Milburn Lime, every time. Milburn Lime, available all over the Southland district and beyond. Top grade lime that's been available year after year. Call them on 03 417 8228. The next time you need lime, think Milburn Lime, every time. On Saturday, November the 6th, we leave for another Bill Hohepa Old Truck Tour of New Zealand. We leave from Auckland and make our way to Wellington, cross over on the ferry to the South Island and continue down all the way to Richardson's Museum in Invercargill. Then we travel up the coast all the way to Wakefield and on to Rockville. All this and looking at old trucks as we go, as well as seeing a fair bit of New Zealand. We have 12 places available and people will travel by minibus. So if you have an ex-truck driving dad or granddad or somebody you know, maybe this special trucking holiday treat will be just a ticket, maybe a Father's Day surprise. If you'd like to find out more, just go to my Facebook page, Bill Hohepper's 2021 Old Truck Tour, and all the details are there, or just email me at billhohepper@extra.co.nz. Sitting in here is this Morris Commercial. It's exactly the truck that they use in the Hogan's Heroes program, with just a little window there. They got one on this side, and they do all sorts of things on that show with this truck. But Paul was saying it's got a 6-cylinder flathead engine in it, and this one came out from England, all rigged up as a recovery truck. So just in here there's a 3/4 inch wire rope on a winch inside here that goes up through an arm up the back there, and it's got 4 gear levers in here to do different things. But I just saw this and I thought, that's the truck they use in Hogan's Heroes. It's amazing what you can find in sheds. Paul, behind us is this V12 engine. Maybe you could just describe that to me.
Yes, well, it's 149, which means 149 cubic inch per cylinder, and it's 12 cylinders, and it's like a V12, like I say. Puts out about net 600 horsepower. They were very popular in boats, but of course they're not fuel efficient like the modern Yamaha motors and other motors, so they've been tossed out really. And I bought it off Diesel Progress, got 2 of them in Christchurch, just to make noise with, because you've got 2 8-inch exhaust pipes.
Wow.
So I figured that you could make a lot of noise and probably annoy the neighbours.
Yeah, there's lots of good engines, like the GM's made great noise to, sort of...
Well, this is a GM.
Oh, is it? Okay.
General Motors, yeah.
To, turn diesel into noise. Perfect.
Well, GM originally started off as grey marine, and then Durant bought it for the General Motors Corporation, and it was called GM Diesel. Then later they converted it to Detroit Diesel.
Oh, okay.
So it's the same thing.
Right.
Just over there on your right is a 6B53 on the end of the comma, which people have seen make noise.
So you've got a little row of noisemakers here.
I have.
Good on you. In the international range of trucks, there's the K series, which is probably the 1940s, and there were KS and KB, and I think this is a KB because it's got all the fruit, it's got all the chrome, it's got all everything's looking very nice about it, and it says KB7 there. And when we went to Canada, we saw a KB11, which had a square grille and an air cleaner on the side of it, so it was probably the biggest of the K series that International made. But that was a logging truck, that one, and it's gone past its use by date and just parked in a paddock and left. But Paul Gleeson's done this one up. It looks absolutely delightful and beautiful. At the front of Paul's place, there's a Bristol crawler tractor up on a pole. And that was inspired by him going to Auckland with his parents when he was 10, and they saw an Austin 7 up on a pole in Jewry, and he asked his mother, how did they get that up there? And she said, well, they put up a ladder and they took it up there bit by bit, and they built it on the top of the pole. And he thought to himself, yeah, right. The pole is actually the drive shaft out of a W90 dragline. And Paul thought, well, yeah, that's strong enough to hold up the dozer. Bristol is the name of an aircraft company, and the planes kept getting stuck in paddocks as they landed, so they built a tractor to pull them out, and that's how they started. It's been up there for 7 or 8 years, and he thought for a bit of fun he might paint one side red and one side green. So one day it was red and the next day it was green, and people would scratch their heads and say, gee, you must have 2, and putting them up there daily. Anyway, if you're driving past Paul's place, that's what you see. Just like to tell you about an event at Higgins Park. Higgins Park is near Wakefield, which is south of Nelson. So if you're in that area on the 2nd and 3rd of October, that's a great event to attend. They're going to open up all their sheds, so everything they have there will be on display, things for the family to do. So it's going to be a wonderful weekend, and it starts from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. We're going to be there filming, so we look forward to seeing you there. Melbourne Lime, every time. Melbourne Lime, available all over the Southland District and beyond. Top grade lime that's been available year after year. Call them on 03 417 8228 The next time you need lime, think Melbourne lime, every time.
Bill, down the end there, the first of the yellows is a Caterpillar 15. Then we get up to date and we got a 22, then another 22, and at the end here, it's
a D2, it says at the
that's
bottom.
a D2.
Yeah, yeah. So when did they...
Looks wrong.
Well, it says D2 on it, so
Yeah,
I guess that's what it
no,
must
it's
do.
a D2.
Yeah.
The cat, the original cat would probably be kerosene petrol, and they wouldn't have gone into diesels really till you get up to the D2.
You've got to wonder how many tractors that came to New Zealand, because the collections are just everywhere, and I think a bloke called Barefoot in Edgecombe would have about 400 tractors of all different styles and makes, but in all around the country this guy's got shed full of tractors. Yeah. I just wondered how many.
But after the war,
yep.
See, really, there were still horses being used after the war, but after the war you had this influx of guys coming back from overseas that had been up in the islands and seen crawlers up in there doing the landing strips and all that sort of thing. So of course you were faced with all this labour, and there was rehab money, and there was a huge amount of country
that needed breaking in.
Was broken up.
Yeah.
And that was where they all came into crawling, particularly in this area. Like you've got the main road there, but you've got 70k before you hit the coast the other way. So there's a huge chunk of country in there.
Sure.
And it's all steep. So all crawlers.
Sure.
So that's why everybody ended up the crawler. And they have a favourite. It's a nostalgic thing. They have a crawler that as a kid they probably had, and if they're still alive and haven't killed themselves in the meantime, they want one of those to put in their shed. So,
yeah, just to go and sit on it and relive the day.
Well, yeah. It doesn't do any good. It's in the shed. It drove in the shed and it sits in the shed.
Yeah, awesome. Sitting in the back corner of one of Paul's sheds is this old Leyland fire truck. In another corner is the old Leyland Bull Terrier, and that gave great service back in its day. For those of you who remember fertiliser getting shipped around in railway wagons will remember the old clamshell that had to unload them and load them onto trucks. Paul's even got an old GMC waiting for its turn to be restored. And in another shed he's got a TS3 Commer, an old Bedford with a stock crate that Paul built and put on it. And not far away is this J7 Bedford, and next to it is a Mercedes 1924. And in its time, that Mercedes was a favourite workhorse. He's even got more tractors stashed away in little corners of his property. Oh well, I hope you enjoyed that. Paul is certainly an amazing guy when it comes to restoration. He's got a fabulous collection here at Mangatanoka, where he lives, and as you can see behind me, certainly a truck and tractor enthusiast.